maximizing the space on the disc.
Thank you very much. It's kind of early to start something. I'm pretty impressed. Had last year a class that began at 4, and I never got anybody there at 4:15 or 5 o'clock, it seemed like. But Mike must be doing a good job. I was asked to talk a little bit about fundraising in a generic sense and set the tone, I guess, for some of the things that you're going to be talking about in this class. Paid political ad, for those of you that don't get enough of it this time. This fall, we're going to have another graduate class in institutional advancement, which is going to focus more on the university side, foundations and that, than the athletic side. An online class. Matter of fact, when I leave here, we're going to try and figure out some of the case studies we're going to have for students to look at. So if you don't get enough fundraising this summer, we'll have you some more in the fall if you'd like to take that class. I don't know whether it's full or not, but it's totally online. Let me just start by talking a little bit about, I guess, fundraising in general. It doesn't really matter whether it's athletics or anything else. Really, when you get down to it, the basics of fundraising is a personal relationship. People give for personal reasons and personal relationships. Now, you might think, well, what he's really saying is you got to be friends with the development officer. And that certainly helps. There's no doubt about that. That personal tie is important. But it's also the personal relationship with the institution that you're involved with. And that institution can be the church, it can be the Red Cross, it can be the hospice center, it can be the university, it can be a piece of the university. When you really look at Florida State, you're going to probably deal with boosters and talk to boosters. Most people who go to a college find that that's probably the most fun you have in your life. You look at your undergraduate program or even your graduate program, you usually get a lot of support from your parents. Usually you're developing in terms of your mind, your thought process, where you're going to do the rest of your life. It's a fun time to be around. You can be just irresponsible enough to have fun, but responsible enough to be able to make it. And you look back on it when you're 40 or 50 years old, maybe older like me, and you start thinking, damn, I didn't have kids, I didn't have to make a house payment, I didn't have to do this, I didn't have all the pressures of climbing the professional ladder. It was a cool time. And consequently, people develop, those personal relationships, and they want to help an institution or that group that helped them during their development time. Years ago, for state universities, the whole development scene was really the margin, what we used to call the margin of excellence. The money you got from fundraising was extra. The real money came from the state. Your state supplement for FTE, your state allocation, that's what you ran the institution off of. You made the neat little things happen with those fundraising dollars. What's happened is not just in this economic crisis we've been in the last 4 or 5 years, but really over the last 10 or 15 years, you've seen the state appropriation, the state allocation really dwindle and drop significantly. Now, even if you're in a private institution, if you're the University of Miami or Flagler College or Eckerd or Stetson or whatever, you get, as an institution, certain dollars from the state. And this state is called FRAG, Florida Resident Access Grant. That's what it's actually called. So it's a state supplement. That money has begun to dwindle. So as institutions face crisis in terms of finance, they turn to the private sector and say, we've got to find some additional money. We've got to raise money. So what's become the margin of excellence, and that has become the margin of existence. Without those private dollars, institutions can't make it. You're really focusing in this class on athletics. And the reality is that without the boosters and without the booster dollars in the athletic program at Florida State or for that matter, any Division I institution, there wouldn't be an athletic program, or at least an athletic program as we see it. It would probably be more like what you see in, I don't know what it's called nowadays, I think Division II is what we used to call it, Montana, that kind of smaller institution. If you look at the budget at Florida State, with the athletic department, it's about $50 million, give or take a few. And if you look at and add up all the ticket sales, and you add up all the sales of merchandise, and you add up the Nike contribution for wearing Nike swooshes on your shirt, and you add up the concession stands and all the stuff, you're going to come to about $40 million. It doesn't take, really new math to figure out. You got to have some extra money. So where does that money come from? It comes from the boosters, it comes from fundraising, it comes from ticket priorities, from Golden Sheet, skyboxes, and all that kind of stuff that you pay for. That is part of the whole fundraising game. I'm sure you'll talk in this class a little bit about the difference in raising money for athletics and the university. The university president, you really don't care where the money comes from. You just look at the total pot. But if you're a fundraiser and you've got a bonus laying on the line at the end of the year, or if you're the athletic director and you've got to make the balanced budget, you do care where it comes from. And if you take a donor who says, well, I've got $10 million to give, but I'm thinking about giving half to the business school and half to the athletic department, to watch the dance between the business dean and the athletic director occur as they both jockey for, oh yes, we really care about Florida State, but what they really are saying is, give me the whole pot. They may not get in a fight over 5,000, but 10 million. You'll have to do some negotiating there, to say the least. But I guess the point is, with athletics, without private dollars, you simply can't make it. Now, I don't care if you're the University of Florida and you're running on a high like they are, without the Gatorade money, I guess it's Stokely Van Camp, without those types of dollars, you simply don't balance the budget. You don't make it on that. A lot of people look at bowl games and say, hey, man, we made $1 million to go to the bowl game. But you spent $1.2 million. When Florida State went to the Emerald Bowl in I guess it was 2002 or 4 or something like that. You got $1 million. Cost $1.5 million to go. When you take a big airplane, because you can't send a truck out there, it takes longer to get the truck and the van. You have to pack all the shoulder pads and helmets and all that stuff. You got to take the big jet. Well, the good news is you got the big jet. Bad news is the big jet costs twice as much as the jet that it takes you to go to play North Carolina or wherever it happens to be. Go to LA, the price of a hotel room in LA is twice what it is in Raleigh. Bowl contracts usually tell you, well, you got to have so many hotel rooms. They actually won't tell you got to bring the band. Well, there's 400 people in the band. There's only 85 players on the football team. Football team gets 4 hours worth of TV time. The band probably don't get any time. They may give them 2 minutes playing the national anthem, depending on what the flyover looks like at that game. But the cost of taking the band on the game, on a football weekend, doesn't matter where it is twice as much as it is to take the football team. But it becomes a difficult balancing act when you look at athletics. Athletics also, I think you'll find, is the catalyst, particularly in the South, for fundraising at all levels. Now, a lot of my peers don't want to hear me say this, but it's the truth. So goes football in the fall, it goes the rest of your year, particularly as it relates to fundraising. You can watch it at Florida State. Go back to '99 when we won the national championship. All the enthusiasm, all the effort that went on, not only on TV, but on campus. People got got excited about ball games. I mean, you'd start on Wednesday night afternoon, people start thinking about the game. I guess the big nights at Potbelly were Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Thursday night at Potbelly before a home game, it was something else. I mean, you had to put about shut down College Avenue. We'll never admit that we did it, but that's about the truth. 3 years ago, when we were 6-6, well, 2 years ago, when we were 6-6 and had to beat Maryland just to get in the bowl, man, you could get a place to park in front of Potbelly. There just wasn't the enthusiasm. Athletics provides enthusiasm, not just for your students, but your boosters. Walk through the lot there in front of Moore Center. That's the Golden Chief lot. In order to do that, I think it's $10,000 to be a Golden Chief a year. Maybe it's 25. It's a big chunk of change. Last year, before the Maryland game, half of the parking lot, parking spaces, each parking space is $25,000, if that's what it is. Consider that. Half of them were empty. I walked every skybox last year, the Maryland game, went in them. I think you pay about $25,000 a year for them, and you get 12 or 15 seats in there. You also get buy food and alcoholic beverages and that kind of thing. There were 5 skyboxes last year at the Maryland game, set up, totally ready to go. All the food was laid out, all the beer and wine was there. Not a single person was in it. Not a single solitary person played those games. Called each one of those people and said, how come? I said, you know, just wasn't interested, just no enthusiasm. Now, was it part of the economy? Yeah, no doubt about that. But you went down to Florida when they played Northwest Alabama, who the heck ever they were. They had 70,000 people. People sitting in skyboxes, et cetera, to watch a blowout. It was nothing more than a spring game. Without the enthusiasm, you won't get the people to show up. And you can see that same enthusiasm in terms of, obviously, your concession stands. Fewer people buy Cokes and hot dogs and popcorn and that kind of stuff. Fewer people buy merchandise before the game. Fewer people go to the Bills or Garnet and Gold or any of those other types of places. Boosters make money off of that. And you have people who just simply say, well, you know, we're not playing that good, so I just don't really think I'm going to come out. Or if you look at Parents Weekend, circles, the numbers weren't off, but the mix of people was off. Had more students actually went to circus last year than in past years. The difference was you didn't have all the parents who were coming up for the Parents Weekend, homecoming, whatever it happens to be. Consequently, there were more tickets available on campus. Without the athletic enthusiasm, now, basketball wound up doing pretty good. Baseball wound up, I guess, going through the regional last year. Track was on the brink of winning another national championship. Volleyball did well. First time they'd had a winning season. Everything worked off